good and ready to announce that. Finally, of course, while electric vehicles deserve all policy support and which has come from the Government of India, which we completely acknowledge, proportionate policy support for other technologies such as alternate fuel technologies like ethanol blending, for instance, as also electrified vehicle technologies by government, is essential to realize national goal of reducing fossil fuel imports. Support to other electrified technologies will facilitate investment viability for local manufacturing of electric vehicle parts and also ensure that the transition from conventional petrol and diesel technologies is smooth with the least amount of disruption. Considering all this, I would like to emphasize that policies are technology neutral and linked to meeting the national end objectives of reducing oil imports and emissions. To conclude, sir, I would like to thank you for your time and patience and for having addressed us all, and thank the FICCI Secretariat for organizing this very, very important event. I have been privileged to chair the FICCI Electric Vehicle Committee for quite a few years now since its start, and I hope, and we will certainly come to you with our suggestions on how to enhance the EV population in the country, and also a complete roadmap on how the automobile production can be increased suitably. Thank you very much, sir, once again, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Namaskar. That's it, Ullas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now for the panel discussion, CEO Roundtable, I request Mr. Ramesh Shivanna, Chairman, Electric Mobility Subcommittee, FICCI, Karnataka State Council, and Director of Sadbhavana Ventures Private Limited, to do the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Ramesh Shivanna.
Yeah, good afternoon. We had a vibrating session, another session. Now, welcome again for this business session, the Spark Revolution Electrical Mobility Summit 2020 virtual conclave, organized by Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Karnataka Udyoga Mitra and Government of Karnataka, and powered by Mahindra Electric, Sun Mobility, and Pride Energy Environment Resource Research Institute. It's a great pleasure once again welcoming all the senior officers from the Government of Karnataka and industry stalwarts in this panel. We have with us Mr. Gaurav Gupta, Principal Secretary, Industry and Commerce, Government of Karnataka. Mr. Gunjan Krishna, Commissioner, Department of Industry and Commerce, Government of Karnataka, the department which rolled out the EV policy first in the country. And we have Mr. MP Rajesh Gowda, Managing Director, BESCOM, who is the nodal agency to set up charging infrastructure in Karnataka. We have Mr. Dilip Shennai, Secretary General, FICCI, Mr. Mahesh Babu, Managing Director and CEO, Mahindra Electrical Mobility Limited, one of the leading EV manufacturers in the country, and Mr. R. Chetan Maini, co-founder, Vice Chairman, Mobility, man who introduced the first electric car to the country and now creating a swappable battery business model to the EV segment. Piyush Gupta, CEO, Lithium Power Private Limited, one of the leading EV last mile connectivity operator, and Mr. Bishesh Gubi Suresh, AVP and Group Head, New Business Strategy, Hyundai Motors India Limited. Again, another largest manufacturer of mobility in India. And we have Mr. Giri Prakash, Associate Editor in Hindu Business Line, representing media, and today moderator for this business session.
Right. Thank you, panelists, for.
I'll just give my observation and I'll hand it over to Jisha. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, with all major automotive players, industry bodies, as well as consumer shifting their attention from traditional fossil fuel driven vehicle to electrical and alternative energy, the automotive industry is experiencing a major disruption in the existing powertrain technology, making way for a more viable contender, e-mobility. There has been a rapid rise in the number of electric vehicles on the road. Though the Indian government laid out a broad plan in 2013 e-mobility has seen better traction in the recent times with the phase 2 of the FAME rolled out in the 1st April 2019. The second phase aims to boost electric mobility and increasing the number of electrical vehicles in commercial fleets. This includes encouragement for buses using EV technology, electric plug-in hybrid, and strong hybrid four-wheelers, as well as electric three-wheelers, including e-rickshaws, and electric two-wheelers, and also focus on the establishment of charging infrastructure across multiple cities. The present and projected level of electrical vehicle market is likely to be 500 billion opportunity in India by 2025, as per the Aventis report. With the 2 and 3 wheelers will lead the electrification movement. E-rickshaw has emerged as large market in India. In short, time frame, even as a large part of this market is still unorganized, and based on the lead acid batteries, this market is expected to rapidly shift to lithium-ion battery over the past decades. The economic of the technology used in this sector has improved significantly. The inevitability of transition of electrical vehicle is accepted by the world. However, the timeline for mass adoption is still a topic for debate. But we believe that India is moving quickly towards mobility regime where EV becomes mainstream. The current COVID-19 situation is expected to accelerate the rate of adoption of electrical vehicle in the medium term as customers look for environment-friendly and cost-effective personal mobility solution. India represents the fourth largest automobile market in the world and the second largest two-wheeler market. The pollution in many Indian cities has reached alarming levels. All these factors combined make a strong case for EV adoption in India, and the EV are emerging as the preferred clean technology for the future of mobility. On the ownership cost of high-speed electric two-wheelers and other use cases such as retail four-wheelers and commercial vehicles, the total cost of ownership will be favorable as the battery prices drop further. E-auto makes economic sense on a total cost of ownership basis. We expect to see intensive action in this space going forward. So in the medium term, we expect the EV adoption in the four-wheeler category to stay limited to commercial or fleet application. The overall penetration in the electric four-wheeler segment is expected to be about only 2%. The factors mainly policy, battery cost, charging infrastructure, and supply chain localization, driving the adoption of EVs in various segments in the country over the next decade. On the commercial vehicle side, e-buses are expected to lead the category with the regulatory push expected to drive this category rather than total cost of ownership. So, however, achieving 15% of electrical vehicles with the next 5 years at 30% of electrical vehicles by 2030 on Indian roads is still challenging, although there's a change in the general segment. So it would still be time for the Indian consumer to be convinced about the change. So with this, now I welcome once again all the panelists and participants, and now I request Mr. Dilip Shenoy, Secretary General, FICCI, to brief on the FICCI activities to promote the EV mobility in the country. I go to Mr. Dilip Shenoy.
No, thank you, Mr. Shivana. I would, since we're running half an hour behind schedule, I would just leave it to the moderator to take forward the session. And I think we have representatives from industry here, so they can. So I beg your indulgence for leaving my time to the experts to speak. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dilip. Now over to Mr. Giri Prakash to take over this panel discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Shivana. Thank you, Mr. Shenoy. We have a very electric group of people drawn from the bureaucracy, the private sector, and the industry presidents. I'm sure whatever will be the outcome of this discussion will be part of the roadmap that the government of India will come out with. Without wasting much time, I would like to ask Mr. Gaurav Gupta to start the discussion. We know that the Honorable Minister for Road Transport, Mr. Gadkari, has already set the agenda. So, Mr. Gupta, if you can share your views and of course relating to Karnataka. What are the kind of initiatives that have been taken? What are the kind of challenges that one faces regarding regarding electric mobility? Mr. Gupta? Yes, sir. Unmute.
Yes, to unmute.
I think Mr. Gaurav Gupta is still on mute.
Yeah. Or shall I go to the next panelist? Would that be fine?
I think we'll ask Shaju to call him, and you can go to the next panel.
Yeah, I'm just calling.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think Madam Gunjan Krishna can take that question.
Sure, ma'am. If you can, I understand that you're also planning to make a presentation. So we could start off with that and then go back to Mr. Gupta.
Sure. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at the FICCI conference on the electric vehicle. In fact, as rightly pointed out, we've been the pioneer. We are the first one with the help of industry. We have Chetan Mani here. We have Mahesh Babu here, and they had been the ones who actually are the people who started the policy, and they worked for the policy, and it is us who just brought it out. So I'm thankful to them. And we also have Mr. Mani's group. We have the first electric vehicle ever to take a start in India was in Karnataka in Bangalore. So that speaks volume. Now I have a very brief presentation, and I'll make it, and that will show the whole ecosystem that we are trying to build in Karnataka for electric vehicles.
Sure, ma'am.
So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about e-mobility, we are talking about a mega trend. And this trend has been going on for the last 20 years, and 10 years it has intensified. And after COVID, we have actually all realized when we have lived in an unpolluted environment, from Delhi, people could see Himalayas, and from the foothills in Punjab, people could see Himalayas. And now it's very difficult to go back to the times when, the skies are totally clouded and you cannot see what's going on, in a particular distance. So e-mobility has definitely gained more traction. And this has gained traction also because of the fact that battery costs have fallen by 75% in the last 7 years. And we are actually seeing OEMs have also committed more and more money in this sector. Also, what we are seeing is, as you have rightly pointed out, the first, there are two-wheelers and three-wheelers who are taking it up, and then commercial vehicles are taking it up, and trend is being significantly reinforced by shared mobility. So you will have the shared mobility like Olas and Ubers taking it up in a big way. The other point to be pointed out here is that the total cost of operating a commercial of an electric vehicle is much lower than the ICE engine. And on top of it, the government is actually supporting it fully. Government has come out with the FAME 1 and FAME 2, and most of the states in India have come out with the dedicated electric vehicle policy, Karnataka being the first. So the focus is that how we can reduce the vehicular emission by key driver shaping policies. Now, I will be briefly talking about, what Karnataka has to offer in terms of the auto ecosystem and which can be leveraged for the EV, dedicated EV policy that we have. We have multiple financial incentives that we have introduced to attract the best of the companies to come and set up their investments here. We have the availability of large labor forces, readily available industrial land bank, and the ease of doing business. Now, talking about the Karnataka as it is, we are the 4th largest when it comes to the automotive sector. We contribute about 8.5% to the national GDP. The important aspect is that we not only the automotive industry, which is very important and which is complementary when it comes to EV, we have a very large budding machine tools. In fact, machine tools started way back in 1950s. Bengaluru alone produces 60% of the total value of machine tools manufactured in India. So that is a building block. Second is capital goods. Karnataka is the second highest producer of special purpose and heavy electrical machinery in India. So these are all building blocks for EV. Electronics is a very, very important aspect. We have around 85 plus chip designing companies. Karnataka is the second largest chip design hub in the country. Similarly, software, IT is a very important aspect in the EV. Karnataka is a leader when it comes to the software. And when it comes to robotics, when it comes to AI, when it comes to IoT, all the building blocks are present in Karnataka. Also, Karnataka, if you look at it, we are the #1 in the innovation index. We have the number of startups. Most of the startup, in fact, Ather started in Chennai in the IIT. It was incubated, but because of the fact that the entire ecosystem is present in Karnataka, they moved to Karnataka. Similarly, we have Mahindras, we have many group, and we have Tatas. We have so many others who are coming in now. To Ola is looking at expanding and setting up their manufacturing. So lots of activity that is happening, and that is actually because of the fact that we have this innovation ecosystem, and most of the R&D is happening in Karnataka. Now, talking about, which I spoke about, that many promising startups are working out of Karnataka. Again, what are the building blocks? Building blocks I talked about when it comes to having the automotive ecosystem, having the IT ecosystem, ESDM's ecosystem. But what we are looking at in our policy, our aim is to cover the entire demand side and supply side and infrastructure problems. And we are looking at setting up support for R&D and startups. So that is the one part that we are actually looking at it. Reskilling, because we need to have a major reskilling. When you're going to move from the traditional ICE-based technology to the EV, electronic vehicle-based technology, then we have to set up more and more centers which will be able to give the skill required to cater to the EV industry. So that is another aspect. In charging infrastructure, and my friend will be speaking, Rajesh will be speaking about charging infrastructure. So we are looking at a big way to create a charging infrastructure. Government is working at it, and many more private people are also working at creating this charging infrastructure. Also, we are looking at that how government can facilitate special tariff for EV charging stations. So they can be to examine use of renewable energy at low cost and zero wheeling charges for EV manufacture. These are the ecosystem that we are trying to create. Now coming to the exact incentives, and in fact, since we were the first one to come out with the policy, some of the incentives we are having a relook. We want to make ourselves as competitive as Tamil Nadu or, say, for example, Haryana or any other. So we will be adding more features to it. Our incentives, we can divide into two parts. One is the pre-operation setup and the post-operation setup. In the pre-operation setup, we are looking at, up to 2.5 million subsidy for EV cell battery pack manufacturing units. We are looking at subsidy for EV charging and EV component manufacturing. And we also give subsidy for any anchor industries in the case where, industries have not yet come in those talukas. 100% reimbursement of land conversion fee, 100% reimbursement of stamp duty and concessional registration charges. What we are also looking at is post-operation. That is something that we have come up in our industrial policy, is essentially investment promotion subsidy, wherein we are saying that on a turnover. Lately, what happened is when the 2019 budget came out, the GST on the electric vehicle has been reduced drastically. Now, any incentive that was previously based on GST actually is not going to give the entrepreneurs much. So what we have done is we have changed from the GST-based incentive to the turnover-based incentive, and that would help production and incentivize production. And 50% of the cost of training up to 10,000 per month per training for maximum 50 trainees is something that we are also giving. Now, demand side, if you look at it, we are looking at zero road tax for EVs compared to 10 to 18% for ICEs, and zero registration charges for the EVs. So these are some of the incentives that we have come out, and we are relooking it, and we would look forward to your suggestion that how we can make it competitive. Now, coming to the next part is the setup when we are talking in Karnataka. Karnataka is the knowledge capital. We have got the highly skilled workforce. So the availability of the right skill force is always there. We have the number of institutions, be it engineering college, polytechnics, ITIs. And the one important aspect is that we are one of the very few states in India which bring in high technology, say, for example, robotic, IoT, all of these together with the workmanship and highly skilled workforce. And that is something which is a precondition for the EVs. Also, what we've been working at is that we have been working at relaxing labor laws. We have provisions, we have extended the provisions of the fixed term employment to many more industries. Recent amendments have been made in order to allow women to work even at night. So if there is a women workforce that can be incentivized to participate in the EV revolution. Overtime per quarter has been reduced. So that is another step that we have taken. Exemption limit for Industrial Dispute Act has been increased from 100 to 300 workers. And exemption limit for Contract Labor Act has increased from 20 to 50 workers. Other than that, what we are looking at, working closely with the government training institutes to tailor curriculum as per the requirement, and skilling subsidies are also being considered. These are something from the side of, we have number of lands available. We are looking at developing, we got delayed because of the COVID, but we are actively pursuing with the industry to develop Vididi as a major EV cluster. And there we are looking at creating an R&D center, also the test ground required for the EV, and the common facility center, so that there is a whole ecosystem that is present. Other than that, anybody who's going to invest in Karnataka, we have come out with the amendment to our Facilitation Act. And as per this amendment, any new investment that is coming into Karnataka need not take downstream approvals. You can come and set up. You just need to take a one acknowledgement certificate from our Karnataka Udyog Mitra. Except for the environmental clearances, all the downstream clearances you really don't need to worry about. In the next 3 years or at the time of operation, you need to have them in place. As long as you are adhering to all the laws of the land, you can start grounding your project. So this is something very important. And as a result of all these steps that we have been taking, we in the last 6 months, in fact, from January to May, the results that have come out from the Government of India, 50% of the investments of foreign direct investments have been coming to Karnataka. And I thank all the industry leaders here who have reposed their trust in Karnataka. And I hope that will you continue to support us and guide us and how to take it forward. So we feel strongly that EV is the future, and we need to work together to ensure to create the right ecosystem, and government is always there on the side of the industry. You let us know, and we really need to make this EV cluster happen as soon as possible. And that is what we are targeting at. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We also realized kind of very laudable initiatives for the Karnataka government to promote e-mobility. I have a question which I'm sure I would rather open the floor to everyone around. If I remember some time ago, the Indian government had come out with a target or a deadline for electric vehicles, but it ended up as a moving target for the simple reason that the car manufacturers or the other vehicle manufacturers weren't prepared for it because of the fact that there isn't enough infrastructure to introduce, battery infrastructure, for example, charging infrastructure. Now, I would like to take it from there, and I would like to know how you can go ahead and involve the private in a manner where their target matches that of the government. How do we take this initiative forward so that any targets or any deadlines that you set actually met?
Okay, the question is, the Government of India put a target that by 2030, most of the majority of the vehicles would be EV. And I feel that target was essentially put at that point of time to enthuse the industry, to bring it, to invigorate the entire ecosystem. And that to some extent has been achieved. If you see, there's a lot of activity, the state governments and the industry has been working, and a lot of incentives were put into place, phase 1, phase 2. Then the budget speech, even this year's budget speech had talked about, anybody who's taking loan to buy an electric vehicle will get a tax concessions. So all of these GST on the electric vehicle has been reduced. So all of these is basically, and under FAME, we are actually buying, there are subsidies for 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and the 4-wheelers that has been put into place. Again, the buses that have been bought by the BMTC, KSRT, the state buses. So all of this is going to give a push. I agree that the ecosystem, when it comes to, because the market takes its own course and people have to be ready to, to embrace the new. And that depends on the limitation as well. And the limitations are essentially, high cost of EV. And this over a period of time, when the battery costs are going down, we are seeing that the EV will become more economical, and people will be taking it up more, and we have these startups which are coming up and getting into becoming more competitive. The second is, of course, the lack of charging infrastructure. So in our policy, we have given incentivize as far as the capital subsidy and the turnover based subsidy to ensure that the ecosystem, so that people get incentivized to invest in this sector. And government, BESCOM, MD BESCOM will be talking about that, how government is also creating the charging, both the slow and the fast charging infrastructure in the state. Then the other point comes is the charging range. You need to have, how many kilometers you can, go throughout the city without worrying about charging. So all these factors, the technology has to catch up, the costs have to catch up. You need to look after disposal of batteries and future recycling. All these grid expansion has to happen, because this is not something that can be done overnight. The lofty targets have been given to reinvigorate, to ensure that we take it more seriously, and that is what we are doing. And we are setting up targets within the state policies to ensure that those are achievable, and we are achieving them. MD BESCOM will talk about that, how these many numbers of charging stations have already been put in place. So these are the things that we are working at.
Thank you, ma'am. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now take it to the private sector representatives and then take it back to the government. But I would like to ask Mr. Chenoy, who represents the industry, on his thoughts on what Madam has said. All right. Would Mr. Chetan Maini share his thoughts on that? He has quite a few relevant points to make. And Mr. Maini, your floor now.
Good afternoon, everyone. And, let me start off by saying that, Karnataka has been definitely, in Bangalore, the place where EVs has started. And personally, from the Maini Group, we started electrics in the 80s and Reva in the 90s, and today Sun Mobility. And so I think that it's great to be part of a city and state that has actually taken the leadership on this area. And I think it's with this leadership that the question is, how do we retain this and kind of grow from that area? And I think there are a couple of things where when we look at the policy that came out the last 3 years ago, and I've been very much part of it, it's really good policy across the entire ecosystem what to do. Probably what will need to be, what can be augmented to help this out is probably the certain challenges around the implementation of this area. So there are still gaps of how people can get concessions and the implementation of getting those. So if someone puts up a charging infrastructure or swapping infrastructure, there's still a little bit of lack of clarity on the operating guidelines. So I think while the policy is very good and the vision is clear, maybe we need to accelerate the operating guidelines so that the industry can access this. And that would enable a lot more investments coming in. So that would be my first point on this area. The second part would be around the entire infrastructure support we would need. I think if you look at when there's a change in society on mobility, it's also a perception that has to be created. So if you go back to the early days when Delhi moved to CNG, people wouldn't pick up vehicles till they saw CNG signs all over, and then they started adopting, right? So they have to see things. So I think one important thing for us is how do we accelerate infrastructure deployment on this area? And BESCOM has taken a very good first step of putting its stations. But that's key is how can the private players augment it? So if BESCOM has done X, can we put on that X 100X? Can we create a platform that allows multiple charging and swapping solutions investments to come in the city so that we can have not just 50, 100, but 500 of these within the next 12 to 18 months? This would really, reduce the concerns of range anxiety across this area. But there are challenges today in the state compared to other states where cost of electricity, cost of electric infrastructure, setting it up are huge bottlenecks on this area. And other states like Delhi and stuff with their new policy have really made it very easy for people to set up infrastructure. They're setting up 250 sites, they're putting up a process in it, they're giving electricity connections up to that point, and they're making people saying we want to push this fast. So I think we should learn on areas to say how can we make this, the industry can invest, and the role of the government is to create a platform that allows all of us to put in. And it triggers the platform, but then everyone else should invest. That is not set up today in the state on this area. And I would request that what we can do, and we as the industry would love to work and continue to work with the government to see how we can make that happen on this area. The third part is I think we can make a success of a solution. And I feel Dr. Goenka also alluded to it earlier, which is around the integrated first last mile solution, and create Bangalore as a model city around that, right? So when I think of, we have Bounce, we have Yulu, we have Vogo, we have Metro Rides, Ola and Uber, we have Big Baskets and Amazon Flipkarts. If you look at the amount of first mile, last mile of 2- and 3-wheeler that's required in the city on this area, right? We can have a lot of common infrastructure and solutions across this area, right? How do we involve metro stations, that every metro station has infrastructure for charging, so that people who are being dropped off there, people who want to take a scooter off there, look at it. How can everyone who's doing every package that's being delivered to you today in your home or work can be done on electric? All of these e-commerce players have announced an electrification plan. Why don't we accelerate and work with them to say, how do we create one city in a mall? Bangalore can then, it has a lot of IT part to it too. There's an IT connectivity also on this area. So I think if we take this integrated approach of creating, the best destination for first mile, last mile transportation solutions on this area, we can be a hub of looking at it. And also, since a lot of these companies are based off Bangalore and manufacturing is done here, we can leverage that part. And when these solutions go to other states, it's a lot of manufacturing from Karnataka can go to other places on this front. So policy is great. It's about guidelines and operations and the challenges at the ground. So if there's a way that we can create a single window today to address these issues from the government, because some are industry related, some are energy related, some are related to other issues, and there are different stakeholders. I think that creation of a platform in a single window could probably help accelerate this area within Karnataka.
Thank you, Mr. Maini. Thanks for those insights into the gap that exists as of now. I think Mr. Rajesh Gowda is slightly busy, but I would like to draw his attention and hand over the baton to him and tell us how does one address these issues. Mr. Maini did talk about how charging stations at the metro station, that was a very good suggestions to make. If you can throw some light on the challenges ahead, Rajesh Gowda.
Yeah, morning all. It's we here getting the world of concerns that are there to augment and forward the interest of the electricity sector, e-vehicle sector. So BESCOM is the nodal agency for the whole state, and then we have had a couple of meetings and webinars with Maini ji and other important stakeholders in the sector. So 2-3 issues where the concerns are there, the cost of electricity and the cost of getting connection. Now, the first issue, the electricity cost, as Mainiji has raised that in about 6 states, the fixed charges are not there, but Karnataka is imposing the fixed charges. So that, I mean, we have to take up with the KERC, or maybe a petition can be filed in the KERC for waiving of these charges. Maybe the regulators also need to be sensitized regarding the requirement. Also, prevail, and we will also request. That is one thing where the operating cost can come down. The second thing is about the getting electricity connection. Now about 35 kilowatt. I think now World Bank has identified Bangalore this year for the ease of doing business. For ease of doing business, and then we have had a series of a lot of meetings, and where we have come out with a lot of facilitation mechanisms where within 7 days where right of way is not required, and where within 15 days where right of way is there. So within that time frame, mandatorily we need to give the electricity connection. So the velocity will increase, and the hassleness, I mean, when once it becomes contactless and cashless, that would be a major thing where the private sector who want to invest in the public charging infrastructure can really augment in a big way. But otherwise, from our side, what we are seeing is that we have 136 stations, charging stations in 73 places. The utilization is just less than 1%. Less than 1%. So that is a cause for concern. Like it becomes a chick and egg syndrome, whether chick first or egg first, whether auto industry will align itself and a lot of vehicles will come, and public infrastructure, charging infrastructure, like participation both from BESCOM side and private participation will happen, or public infrastructure visibility will be in such a big way, and then the vehicles will come. So this is one thing, and Mainiji is requesting also for some of the our places where because it is also a real estate factor which comes in for swapping stations. So that we will be placing before the next board, because transparency issues are there. So probably we have to give opportunity for all. So once we will come out with maybe another 15-20 days, then I think people can participate, and with some story of some price for these natural assets, then that swapping stations can also, that concern also be taken care. And Mainiji has also raised about among our staff where under LT6C, where I mean regarding getting the new connection, we have recently issued a very thorough guidelines on 28th October, very clear instructions to all our staff that when the request comes, and there should be no ambiguity, and to that extent they should be able to get their supply. And I feel in course of time, the opportunity that is there will be the power purchase cost will come down because of high RE integration, which is very cheap, and the electricity sector will stand to gain because of the low cost of solar being there. Even I think as a matter of policy, if it can be decentralized thing, where, because I feel that the charging happens at night with all the customers at home. So to that extent, if in the building bylaws policy, where each of these houses should have a solar panel, solar rooftop, along with storage, about 20-30% storage, I think all the new commercial buildings and the residential buildings, they can charge their vehicles, because what I'm seeing is in all these stations, they are not really fast charging stations. Once they come out, it should be charged in 15-20 minutes. Even on the highways, people cannot wait for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, or maybe 4 hours. So all these things are a concern, but BESCOM definitely, as a nodal agency, is doing its best to ensure that the public charging infrastructure is a software. Share the APIs with all the auto industry, where they can also tell their consumers that this is the place, and this is the they can take an appointment, or they can say this slot is available for them to charge. So I think we are ready to create a synergy in the larger interest of establishing this by 2025. I mean, I would also like to see a lot of vehicles on the roads of Karnataka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajagowda. There are two issues that you raised. One is that there's less than 1% of utilization as far as charging is concerned. But I assume one of the major issues is that assuming somebody does go ahead and buy an electric vehicle and he has to charge it at home, how do you suggest that they are also able to, they get some kind of an incentive to do it? Apart from the fact that you raised a very relevant point about how charging stations have to do it very quickly within 15-20 minutes. That will actually go ahead and incentivize more number of people to go and buy those vehicles.
Yeah, I think that the basic thing is about more number of vehicles need to come on. Even if you look at some of the people doing about 50, 60, 70 kilometers, the overall, I think most of the vehicles are coming about 35 kilometers for one top up. So that highways leading to many of the industries where people commute. I think as of now, FAME2 doesn't charging stations on the highways. Maybe one of the important point maybe whatever regulator has fixed 5 rupees for the per unit should be still reduced. Maybe that would be one incentive, and fast charging can be one incentive. And my initiative of having the swapping stations would be psychologically making these people that once they cross 75 kilometers or on a four-wheeler, if it crosses about 150-200 kilometers, they should be damn sure that in a certain place they will be able to swap the batteries, number one, and or a fast charger is available. These two things can really make people really go for charging electric e-vehicles, so that our public charging infrastructure also get used, and even people who want to invest, public sector who wants to participate in this in a big way, we can always facilitate from the government side that initially that most of these government departments which will have some space in can be the lease can be very minimal, so that people can invest and make employment can be created in this sector. So it will be a synergy from both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before I hand over the baton to Mr. Mahesh Babu, I would like to telescope it further and bring in a consumer. Mr. Shivanna has some relevant points to make, and I think he has been using that. So if you could sort of extrapolate that. Mr. Shivanna?
Yeah. Sir, actually, we had a concern in here in Bangalore. When we want to install home car charger, the charger is actually single phase 7.5 kilowatt, whereas actually we have a guidelines for anything above 5 kilowatt, we need to have a 3-phase. So in case if you amend it to 7.5 kilowatt 3-phase, in each phase we can only draw 2.5 kilowatt. So is it possible to amend from this 5 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt, similar to other states like Delhi and all? We have 10 kilowatt as a limitation for 3-phase. And this is a home chargers are going to face a problem in this.
Yeah, for this question, my deputy general manager, who is driving the this public charging infrastructure in a big way, he will answer this question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, Ramesh, sir, the prevailing regulation stipulates beyond 5 kilowatt, 3-phase power supply needs to be availed. However, during the last review meeting, we requested the Regulatory Commission to extend it up to 10 kilowatts, considering the recent requirement of 7.5 kilowatt charging units to be connected, and most of them are being connected at the homes. In addition to the dealership, we received the request from many users that a single phase power supply can be arranged at the domestic installation, and we have made a representation. The draft is also approved. It is likely to be notified in another maybe 1 month. So once that is out, similar to the street lights, we will be extending the power supply up to 10 kilowatts for exclusively for the charging station, not for other categories, but for the charging station.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would now like to bring in Mr. Mahesh Babu. You have gone through these discussions. We are halfway through these discussions. I would like to know your thoughts on this, and are there any challenges which you face? Mr. Maini started off a pioneering effort as far as REWA is concerned, and then Mahindra took that over. And I would want to know how you look at especially the charging stations, the kind of infrastructure that is available not only in Karnataka but across the country.
Thank you, Giri Prakash, and good afternoon, everyone. I will talk about whole EV right now, Giri, because most of the time we get obsessed on charging. So I just want to widen it up and then come to charging. I think Karnataka is very, I would say, ahead on curve in EV, whether it is startups or investment by established OEMs like Mahindra. I think it was a very conducive atmosphere. I would now talk about very specific to Karnataka because we have talked about FAME, we have talked about what is done by all of us. I think Karnataka is very unique on two fronts, I would say, because it has a knowledge capital. It has productivity, or I would say IT capital, because EVs are about 70% effort of embedded system and software, and about 30% about remaining things. So that's how it is heading towards. So Karnataka and Bangalore has a very unique, I would say, place in particularly EVs. On the EV policy, I think Karnataka came up with 2017. We are all part of it. We co-created the EV policy in 2017. Government was very cooperative. But I would say EV policy is about reviewing every year. It's not a static one. If somebody says by 2030 we want adoption of 30% of EV and just sleep till 2030, nothing is going to happen. It has to be moderated. It has to be boosted. It has to be acted. We need to fine tune the policy year on year because it's a new technology and the new ecosystem is getting adapted. Now, what happened on industry side and what happened on demand side? Let's talk about it in Karnataka. Maybe, I don't know if Kujan madam is there still. On the industry side, I think the policy was mainly focused towards manufacturing. While the knowledge bank of EV is not utilized, there is nothing given on R&D. For example, Dr. Goenka talked about Mahindra is investing about not one or two, I would say 500 crores in knowledge capital in Bangalore. We are investing a state-of-the-art R&D facility in Bangalore, which is the first of its kind in India. So we need to look at Bangalore becoming, I would say, knowledge capital of EV. If that is so, we need to look at incentives, not just for manufacturing equipment, but look at equipments for R&D purposes, equipments for investment related to R&D, which are tangible investments in the policy. We need to re-look at it because it's as important as we manufacture EVs. It is important we develop IPRs in EV in the country. And these two can play a vital role with IT knowledge, embedded knowledge, and software knowledge park in Bangalore. The second one is demand. Demand, I think, is looked at mainly on charging and cars, but nothing much has happened in first and last mile mobility. Let's look at three-wheelers. We are the first one to make electric autos in the country, and if you look at Trio Auto today, we have about 14% adoption in Kerala, and we have about more than 16% in Tripura. We have more than double digit in Bihar. But what happened in Bangalore and Karnataka is still struggling around 1 or 2%. It's not even crossed 3% because of the following reason. Delhi has announced a special policy on three-wheelers incentive. Even Karnataka had a 2-stroke to 3-stroke, what I would say, replacement auto policy for about subsidy of, I think, 40,000 or something, even for 2-stroke to 4-stroke autos. But we withdrew it. We didn't give anything to autos. We need to look at autos as a first mile, last mile, because Bangalore is developing as a important, what I would say, metros are coming, and you need a first mile and last mile, both on passenger and delivery. So the adoption of three-wheelers in Bangalore and Karnataka is pretty low because the demand is more skewed towards car. So the four-wheelers, Karnataka has about 40% of EVs registered across the country in Karnataka, but less than 3% in three-wheelers. Whereas the three-wheeler adoption in other states have substantially increased. Karnataka is still lagging. So we need to relook at that demand incentive for three-wheelers and how do we boost, because most of the three-wheelers are manufactured in Bangalore. Mahindra manufacture Bangalore. So I just did a calculation for the industry to do it. If the 3% adoption of auto goes to 14% like Kerala, we will add about 600 new jobs in our factory. And indirectly, we will add about 2,500 jobs just to manufacture the existing three-wheeler into multiple numbers. So this would help Karnataka to build up on it. So, and hence, if you look at most of the investment will come where the demand is. Why people are going and investing in China? Because there is a demand. Why would people go and invest in Europe? Because there is a demand. So, and hence, we need to look at how do we spur up the demand of three-wheelers in Karnataka, because right now it's lacking on that front. And then taking forward, I think Karnataka needs to relook, because as I said, every year policy needs to be relooked. 2017, it's good to be a pioneer, and it's also good to be reviewing where we are today on every year, and that's what we need to do. So I would suggest we need to relook at the knowledge capital incentives given for the industry. We need to relook at the demand incentive being created for first mile and last mile, because right now it's all oriented towards cars. So these are all the two things I would suggest we need to relook at when taking Karnataka to the next step.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh Babu. Very key, problems I would say that you raised. There's a direct correlation to the increase in adoption will actually increase the number of jobs, and you have come out with certain facts. I'm not sure whether Mr. Gaurav Gupta is there. If he can actually answer this. Is he around? Mr. Gupta?
No, he's not there. He's with the Chief Minister, is what I was talking about.
Okay. Can I draw the attention of ma'am, if she can reply to this? Very relevant issues that Mr. Mahesh Babu has raised, especially about adoption of three-wheelers compared to the other southern states.
I totally agree with Mr. Mahesh Babu, because you have to work with both the demand side and the supply side, and of course they go together. And there had been gaps when it comes to creating and ensuring that more and more so there was some registration was not required, that was done away with in order to ensure that these vehicles, but there was a cap that has been put in Karnataka on the number of three-wheelers that could be there on the roads. So we need to work on that. And the issue mostly concerning the EV space is that as an industries department, what we will do is that we are the ones who are spearheading it, but it cuts across other departments. So you have to have transport department on the same page, you have to have energy department on the same page, and then you have to have the other requirements which have to be worked out. So what I'm suggesting now is, one is, as suggested by the industries, we are re-looking at the policy. So we are going to look at the first mile and the last mile. We are also going to relook at the incentives, and we are also going to look at these things. So we will call a very short meeting to the core and, to the point, and I have my people, BCG people who are working with us, and then we will relook, and we have all the policies and draw out the best practices from them. So that is one thing. From the policy level, we will do it. Second is, now what we will do is that we had not been having meetings under the CS, Chief Secretary, or with the Development Commissioner. So we will start having those meetings so that this interdepartmental coordination becomes a thing, and in which we want industry to really push us, because we want energy department, transport department, all of them, all the stakeholders sitting at one place. And then all these issues will get sorted out. And we have seen in ease of doing business. We have seen energy department, transport department, we have seen BBMP doing so much when it comes to building bylaws have also been amended, where for any parking space, charging and all of that. So much can happen, but this coordination during the COVID time had become it had slackened, and we'll take it up. And I totally agree, we need to reinvigorate the entire ecosystem when it comes to EV. And we are running slightly behind, other states are catching up.
That should actually gladden the hearts of the private sector.
Thank you.
Relook and more incentives. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to bring in Mr. Brijesh Gubi Suresh, AVP Group Head, New Business Strategy in Hyundai Motors. There is a major foray that Hyundai is doing, Hyundai cars are doing. I mean, you are from the passenger car segment, and your suggestions and your outlook are extremely valid. Over to you, Mr. Suresh.
Thank you, Giri Prakash, and a very good afternoon to everyone, all the esteemed guests and panelists. So from Hyundai perspective, we are very committed to lead the clean energy initiatives in India. And in 2019, we launched India's first electric SUV, Kona.